Ever wondered what it's like to get swallowed by a giant fish and live to tell the tale? What if I told you that exact thing happened to a man who was trying to run away from the biggest boss of all? Get ready, because we're diving deep into the powerful story of Jonah and the whale, a tale about running, hiding, and learning to trust. Here at Bible Stories and Tales, we love bringing you amazing stories straight from the Bible. These aren't just old tales, they're adventures packed with lessons that can light up our lives and help our faith grow bigger and stronger. Today's story is one of those unforgettable adventures, full of storms, courage, and a very big fish. It's a story that reminds us that no matter where we go or how fast we try to run, God is always there, ready to forgive and guide us back on track. Now, you might think Jonah would be excited, an important mission from God. But here's where our story takes a surprising turn. Jonah wasn't excited at all. In fact, he was scared. He didn't want to go to Nineveh. The people of Nineveh weren't very nice. They were known for being rough and even cruel, and they were enemies of Jonah's people. Jonah probably thought, why should I help them? They don't deserve God's warning. So, instead of getting ready for his journey to Nineveh, Jonah decided he was going to do the exact opposite of what God asked. He made a plan, a runaway plan, a plan to escape God's mission, even though deep down he probably knew you can't really run from God. He wanted to get as far away from Nineveh and from God's instruction as possible. He was trying to dodge his destiny, trying to ignore that still, small voice inside him that knew what was right. He probably thought if he just went in the opposite direction, God would find someone else for the job, or maybe just forget about him altogether. Oh, Jonah, if only he knew then what we're about to discover. So, Jonah packed his bags, or maybe just his sandals, and headed down to the port city of Joppa. He wasn't looking for a ship going toward Nineveh. Oh no, Nineveh was to the east. Jonah was looking for a ship heading west, as far west as he could possibly go. He found a ship that was leaving for Tarshish, a city probably in what we call Spain today, way across the Mediterranean Sea. It was literally the opposite direction from Nineveh, as far as you could get back then. He paid his fare, climbed aboard, and probably breathed a sigh of relief. He probably thought, phew, I've made it. I'm safe now. God won't find me here. He went below deck, found a quiet spot, and fell fast asleep, thinking he had tricked God and gotten away with it. But you know what? There's no hiding from God. You can run, but you can't hide, especially when God has a special plan for you. While Jonah was snoring away, God sent a message, not to Jonah, but to the sea itself. A furious storm began to brew. The sky turned dark, the wind howled like a hungry wolf, and enormous waves crashed against the ship, tossing it around like a toy boat in a bathtub. The ship groaned and creaked, threatening to break into a million pieces. The sailors, who were experienced seamen and had seen many storms, were absolutely terrified. They cried out to their own gods, each one praying desperately for rescue. They started throwing the cargo overboard, anything to lighten the ship and keep it from sinking. Chaos reigned on deck, with shouting, praying, and the deafening roar of the storm. But where was Jonah in all this? Still asleep. The captain, frantic with fear, rushed below deck and found Jonah snoozing. "How can you sleep?" he yelled. "Get up! Call on your God. Maybe he will take notice of us and we will not perish." The storm grew worse and worse, and the sailors knew something was terribly wrong. They decided to cast lots, a bit like rolling dice, to find out who was causing all this trouble. And guess what? The lot fell on Jonah. He was caught. There was no denying it now. The sailors looked at him with wide, frightened eyes. "Tell us," they demanded, "what is your occupation? Where you come from? What is your country? What people are you among?" Jonah, finally awake and facing the music, had to confess. He told them, "I am a Hebrew, and I worship the Lord, the God of heaven, who made the sea and the dry land." Then he told them the truly terrifying part. He was running away from this very God. The sailors were even more terrified. They realized this wasn't just any storm, it was God's storm, sent because of Jonah's disobedience. "What should we do to you to make the sea calm down for us?" they asked, their voices trembling. Jonah knew the answer. He knew the storm was entirely his fault. He knew there was only one way to save the ship and everyone on it. He looked at the raging sea, then at the terrified faces of the sailors, and bravely told them, "Pick me up and throw me into the sea. Then the sea will become calm for you, for I know that this great storm has come upon you because of me." The sailors didn't want to do it. They tried rowing even harder, hoping to make it to shore. But the storm was too strong. It was as if the sea itself was demanding Jonah. With heavy hearts, knowing it was their only chance, they reluctantly did as Jonah asked. They offered a quick prayer to God, saying they didn't want to be blamed for taking an innocent life. And then with a heave, they threw Jonah overboard into the churning, furious waves. And guess what happened the instant Jonah hit the water? Just like someone flipped a switch, the storm stopped. The wind died down, the waves became smooth, and the sun might have even peeked through the clouds. The sailors were amazed and filled with a sense of awe and reverence for God. They offered sacrifices to God and made promises to him. But what about Jonah? As he plunged into the icy depths, sinking deeper and deeper, he must have thought it was the end. The water swallowed him whole. The darkness enveloped him. Just when all hope seemed lost, when he was surely about to drown, something absolutely unbelievable happened. Not a shark, not a regular fish, but a huge, enormous fish, a massive creature from the deep, appeared out of nowhere and swallowed Jonah whole. It wasn't just a fish, it was a special fish prepared by God. One moment, you're drowning in a raging sea, the next you're inside a living, breathing giant fish. It sounds like something out of a fantastical movie, doesn't it? But this was real. God had a plan, even for Jonah's disobedience. He wasn't going to let Jonah just disappear. Inside the dark, slimy, smelly belly of that giant fish, Jonah probably felt completely alone, completely lost. It was probably squishy and warm, like being inside a giant living cave, with nothing but the gurgling sounds of the ocean all around him. For 3 days and 3 nights, Jonah was trapped in that strange living prison. Can you imagine the feeling? No light, no fresh air, just the constant rocking of the ocean. It was here, in the belly of despair, that Jonah finally realized his mistake. He couldn't run from God. He couldn't hide. He couldn't avoid the mission God had given him. He had hit rock bottom, literally inside a fish. And in that dark, lonely place, Jonah started to pray. He cried out to God, pouring out his heart, begging for forgiveness, remembering all of God's goodness and mercy. He promised to obey God, to do whatever God asked, if only God would save him. He realized that salvation comes from the Lord, not from running away. He was truly sorry for his disobedience, for his fear, and for trying to escape God's plan. And what do you think happened? God heard Jonah's prayer. Even from inside that fish, God heard every word, every whisper of regret, every plea for mercy. God is always listening, always ready to forgive when we genuinely turn back to him. After 3 days and 3 nights, God spoke to the fish. Maybe it was a gentle nudge, or perhaps a clear command within the fish's tiny brain. And the fish, obedient to its creator, swam toward the nearest shore. With a mighty heave, or perhaps just a gentle burp, the fish spit Jonah out onto dry land. Can you imagine Jonah tumbling out onto the sand, soaking wet, probably covered in fish slime, but alive? He was alive. He had been given a second chance. The salty air must have tasted like the sweetest thing he'd ever known. The sunshine must have felt like a warm embrace. He was no longer running. He was standing on solid ground, ready to finally obey. And this time, Jonah didn't hesitate. He knew what he had to do. He went straight to Nineveh, just as God had commanded him in the first place. This time, there was no fear, only a sense of purpose and a desire to do what was right. He walked through the bustling streets of Nineveh, a prophet covered in fish goo, and declared God's message. 40 more days, and Nineveh will be overthrown. He shared God's warning, not with anger, but with the conviction of someone who had learned a powerful lesson about God's patience and mercy. The people of Nineveh surprisingly listened. They heard Jonah's message, perhaps seeing something truly extraordinary in this man who had come from the sea. They believed God. The king declared a fast, and everyone from the greatest to the least put on sackcloth, a rough, scratchy material worn as a sign of sorrow and repentance, and turned away from their wicked ways. They genuinely repented, asking God for forgiveness. And God, seeing their sincere change of heart, had compassion on them. He decided not to bring the disaster he had planned. He showed them mercy. This incredible story of Jonah and the whale teaches us so many important things. First, it shows us that we can never truly run away from God. No matter how far we go or how clever we think we are, God knows where we are, and He cares enough to bring us back. You can't hide from the one who made everything. Second, it teaches us about forgiveness. Even when we make big mistakes, even when we disobey, God is always ready to forgive us. All we have to do is turn to Him with a truly sorry heart, just like Jonah did in the belly of that fish. And finally, this story reminds us about trust and obedience. When we trust God, even when His instructions seem scary or difficult, and when we choose to obey Him, He will guide us, protect us, and use us for amazing things, just like He used Jonah to save an entire city. So, the next time you feel like running from something God wants you to do, remember Jonah, and remember that sometimes the best way forward is to stop running and start trusting. If you want to discover more amazing Bible stories like this one, click on the video popping up right now.